How's it going, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Animal Talk Podcast in collaboration with SAAKA, the South African Animal Keepers Association. My name is Ryan. And yes, once again, I do not have my co-host with me. He's still a bit busy, so hopefully he'll be joining us in a few more podcast episodes' time. But I'm not alone again on this podcast. Thank goodness I won't be talking to myself. I do have a guest that is joining me. I'm very excited because he's from the UAE, and it's Ryan Schreuder.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
That's good. Well, seeing as though you've never been on our podcast, first of all, thanks very much for joining, because it's been quite a challenge getting you onto the podcast. There's been a lot of delays and things happening, my side, your side, everyone's side. So we're finally doing it. But seeing as though it's your first time on our podcast, we have to ask a question, and that is, what is your favorite animal?
This is a very tough one for me to answer.
For most people.
I am going to give two. Both of them are birds, of course.
Uh-huh.
Number one is definitely going to be a lappet-face vulture.
Nice.
I don't know what it is about it.
It's lappet face.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then the second one will also be quite controversial to any other falconers out there. Is probably going to be a Ger peregrine, a hybrid. It's yeah, very fun falcon.
Okay, no falconers are allowed to get upset right now. Those are cool. First time we've had someone decide that they've got two favorites, so that's great. Thanks for sharing that with us, Ryan. Very important. We need to kind of know a little bit more about you. So I did explain that you're in the UAE. Whereabouts? What do you do? Let the listeners know exactly what's happening your side.
Yeah, so I'm based in Abu Dhabi for the most part, but I travel between Riyadh in Saudi and Abu Dhabi and a couple of other places. I'm a falcon breeding assistant and do a little bit of other work in between for Jara falcons, or Binjara falcons rather. So we are the first certified breeding farm in the UAE for falcons. And yeah, we produce, for the most part, SAAKA falcons, but also some Gers, some peregrines, and a handful of hybrids every season. That's not our focus. We try to keep the heritage of the SAAKA falcon alive. That's what our boss's main goal was, but we'll start diversifying now in the near future.
Wow, sounds amazing. Sounds like a lot of work, actually. High-end work. You're also a SAAKA member recently this year, so that's very exciting. So thank you for joining SAAKA and welcome. And yeah, I mean, that side of the world is a lot about falconry. I mean, there's so much history there. I don't know if a lot of our listeners will know the history of falconry. Do you have a little bit of history to tell about the falconry, that side?
Yeah, so if we have to talk about the history of falconry, this will go on forever, but just to touch on the history of falconry in the Middle East specifically. So this started around 4,500 years ago. Some records go back a bit further, some not so far back, but we all work on the 4,500 year mark. And essentially, falcons were used by the Bedouins out here as a way to sustain themselves during the winter months. So they would trap the falcons during their passage going down south. So the falcons would migrate, mainly the SAAKA falcon, again, would migrate down from Europe and Asia, and then they would use the Arabian Peninsula as sort of a land bridge to get down into North Africa, with a lot of them spending that entire migration period on the Arabian Peninsula. So anyway, the Bedouins would trap them, they would fly them for the winter months, hunting with them, and then once the temperatures picked back up and the other falcons started migrating back north, well, they would just cut their birds loose and release them back, and the birds would complete migration going back north. Now, this proved quite beneficial to both parties, because falcons during migration don't have a very high chance of surviving that migration, especially the falcons that the Bedouins were trapping, because they were trapping juvenile falcons. Now, these juvenile falcons, they only have roughly a 10, maybe 20% chance at best of surviving that first year of life and actually becoming an adult. Life is very difficult for young animals all around, as I'm sure you know. And these young falcons, having spent their first season with falconers, learning how to hunt in a much more forgiving environment, where at the end of the day, if the bird didn't catch anything, it wasn't starved, it didn't go hungry, the bird was still fed, because tomorrow is another day, and they want to keep as many birds as they can going. So by the time they release them, some records are different, but the general consensus is that their odds of survival basically doubled to about 40-50% from that original 10-20%. So again, this relationship has been between Bedouin and falcon has been going on for ages, and we still see it in the culture today. I mean, the dirham note that we have in the UAE, the old notes had a stunning photo of a SAAKA falcon on it. Our government buildings, road signs, absolutely everywhere is just, everything is falcons here. So yeah, I mean, it's been around for ages, and kids as young as 6 or 7 years old start learning how to fly falcons with their fathers out here.
Yeah, I've seen on the money and buildings and stuff. It's very interesting, and falconry there, I think, is a very high-end sport. I've seen a lot of stuff where they are even transporting falcons on the glove or on a perch in an aircraft, so on a plane, which
Yeah. So all of our falcons here, when they get registered for CITES, because there's so many different competitions, be it beauty, racing, or if you just want to take your falcon hunting in another place, all of our birds are issued with passports. So these passports are valid for 2 years, and they essentially allow our birds very different regulations in certain countries, as opposed to traveling with a parrot, say, for instance. Things like quarantine and that is not always an issue for traveling to certain countries with the passport.
That's crazy. Yeah, and it's obviously, like you said, it's embedded in the culture, and it's been going on for hundreds of years, and it will continue to be that way. What is the involvement of, how in depth is it with you and where you are working now and what you're doing now at the breeding center?
So my background is not falcon breeding. My background is I started flying falcons when I was about 13 years old. When I say falcons, I'm using that as a broad thing. I started with hawks, but anyway, I've been flying and hunting since I was about 13 years old. I was involved in falconry since then, and when I turned 18, I moved up to the UAE and I started doing falcon shows. So we'd fly our birds to a lure and things like that. But now, since the war started out here, I lost my previous job, and luckily got this job with a very good friend of mine at Binjara. So I'm a breeder's assistant. So I've still got a tremendous amount of stuff to learn, as we all do. But we do everything from harvesting semen to insemination. We analyze the semen to see if it's any good or if we're just wasting our time with the insemination, because at the end of the day, we don't want to have to stress a bird out unnecessarily. So we do quite a lot of stuff. It's very in-depth, and it's very unforgiving time-wise. There's just about no time off during season. It's essentially a 24-hour day. You know, with having a little over 200 rooms in the UAE alone, it's tough, because if a falcon lays an egg at 2 o'clock in the morning, you've got to be there within essentially 45 minutes to perform the insemination. And when you have around 100 rooms at the same time, you can imagine the amount of phone calls you get.
Wow, that's very interesting. So I just want to try and understand. So the history of falconry is capturing falcons, using them for falconry, and then releasing them. Now with the breeding center, are any of these birds that have been bred, trained, used, hunted, or anything like that, are they ever released back into the wild?
No. So according to CITES, we are not allowed to release captive bred falcons here in the UAE. There are certain places in the world where it is allowed. So the reason for us breeding and the reason that breeding facilities exist is to stop the illegal trapping of certain falcons. Because in places like Iran, Pakistan, southern India, places like that, a lot of falcons migrate through those regions. And they used to trap them, they still do, trap them in the thousands. And there was no regulation towards it. Because those birds would end up getting shipped either to the Middle East to be sold, or in some places they would eat them, whatever the case was. So with us, and the reason for breeding facilities is because we don't want to affect anything in the wild. They want us to keep the wild stock as is, but I know a lot of facilities across Europe, they do what we call wild hacking, where, say for instance, you breed 30 peregrines that season, and the best way to let a falcon learn to be itself is through self-actualization, to let them figure it out themselves. Because we can't fly, so we can only teach them so much. And through this hacking process, should one of them not return or just push off on its own, which there's quite a lot of guys that have their birds fly from Spain all the way up into the Netherlands and areas like that, they don't see those birds again. And a couple of years later, those birds end up being found breeding and healthy with no hassles at all. The only way we can tell it's them is by the captive ring that's sitting on their leg.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think a lot of birds of prey, and it's a mindset that a lot of people can't understand, but birds of prey, innate behavior of them knowing how to hunt, yes, they do watch their parents and they do sort of learn vicariously through them, but a lot of it is innate behavior. I mean, I've read quite a few young birds of prey, owls, those type of things in the past, and I can't fly and show them how to hunt. They seem to be able to pick it up pretty much on their own and know exactly what they need to do with their feet and their beak at the correct time, how to stick their beak into the neck, and all of that type of stuff is just really done by them knowing that this is how they have to do it.
Exactly. So it's self-actualization is the best way to do it. And, you know, in saying that, what's quite tough for us here in the UAE is, of course, not just in the UAE, but the entirety of the Middle East, is, of course, the weather. You know, by the time our birds start laying eggs, it's end of winter and we start entering summer. And by the time we have fledglings and birds that are ready to start moving around and being themselves, it's too hot. So we have giant warehouse size what we call a hack pen. It's basically just a giant air-conditioned warehouse that the falcons can fly around and learn to be themselves in.
It's a giant cool room.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's crazy. And so you say you're obviously you're waiting for that first egg to be laid, then you're doing insemination. So there's no natural breeding; it's all insemination.
There is natural breeding. There definitely is, but for the first essentially 2 or 3 seasons, you're better off doing the artificial insemination because it may take them a while to pair up. And also with copulation, natural copulation, there is no guarantee that the egg will be fertile. With artificial insemination that we do, we don't do it with calipers or anything to stretch the cloaca open. It's done with the old European style of just pushing essentially the oviduct out and putting the semen straight into it, and then it's done. The whole process takes about 15 seconds, if even that long. And with certain birds, like imprints, if we have an imprint female, say for instance, she'll present herself, and you're the male falcon, and she accepts you. It's right. There's no manhandling involved. There's nothing funny involved.
Yeah, it's so much easier if they're just doing their whole natural behavior for you, in other words.
Exactly. So for the most part, it's all done with imprints.
Okay, that's great. But you have to wait for that first egg so that you know that they're in the egg laying. How many eggs do they normally lay?
So normally you're looking at about anywhere between, on average is 4, but they can push up to 6. Wow. And then if we have to remove the clutch from her, because we don't allow the females to sit on their eggs. Because
that was my next question.
Yes. So once she lays an egg, we'll go in there. We will replace that egg with a chicken egg, like a dummy egg, and then we will incubate that egg ourselves. So once she reaches the end of her egg laying, then what we can do is we can remove all of the eggs, and there's about a 50% chance, sometimes a bit higher depending on the individual, that she's going to lay another 5 or 6 eggs after that.
Okay, wow. So you can double clutch her.
Exactly, we can double clutch up to about safely 8 to 10 eggs.
And I'm just guessing there's a lot more supplements that need to be given to a female that's laying. I mean, she's got to take in a lot more calcium.
That's the very expensive part about falcon breeding, is the food. Because our birds get fed nothing but the best. They get fed a massive variety. That's every batch of quail or pigeon or chicks or anything that those falcons get fed is all tested by the labs for any diseases that can spread over to them. Everything is controlled. And also, there's a very long list of supplements that is given to the birds prior to breeding season and during breeding season as well.
Okay, and then the chicks are hand-reared?
The chicks are hand-reared up until about 12 to 15 days. Then we put rings on their legs, the captive rings. So the one ring will be the ring issued by the government, and the next ring will be the farm where the bird came from.
Yeah. And these are closed rings?
Yes, they are closed rings, yes.
Okay, so it's got to be done at a certain time before that toe can't go back.
Exactly. So if you have if you're found with a falcon that has rings that have been crimped on here, it's not legal. Let's put it that way, because we know where that bird would have come from. It would have been a wild bird, or there was something funny that happened with that bird that wasn't 100% legal.
Yeah, probably captured or something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
So though that ring then corresponds with its passport that you were speaking about.
Correct.
Okay. And then what happens after those chicks are rung and they're ready? Then you can go maybe through that process of getting them into the...
Yeah, so after the babies are rung, we then put them back, not necessarily with their own parents, but maybe with another pair. It'll always be of the same species. Then we'll put them back with that pair of falcons, and they'll raise them until they're fully fledged and ready to move on to the hack pen. Till about here around 50 days old, between 50 and 60 days old, sometimes a bit younger. This way we don't have any birds imprinting or anything like that.
Yeah.
Now, this part is where things also become a bit more dangerous for the babies, because, of course, we have dozens of certified parents, or foster parents, if you would, but you never know what can happen. Sometimes they don't accept them, and that's just what it is. So on top of all of this, we have a team of guys that sit in a control room, and they watch every single room 24 hours a day. There's nothing that goes on in those rooms that we do not know about.
Wow.
And what's also quite interesting is, of course, we're people, and people make mistakes, and that's totally normal. So hopefully for the following season, this one coming up for next year, we will be switching over to AI. So it will tell us when falcons are laying eggs. It'll tell us if there's any issues between the parents and babies. It'll note if babies are eating enough, if they're not eating enough, if one of them's eyes look a little bit off. Because with a falcon, the first way you're going to see if they're a bit off is if their eyes are a little bit droopy and they look a bit sick. So it's going to be very interesting to see how AI assists us with that.
Yeah, 100%. So this is obviously going to be with cameras and sensors and all of that type of stuff in those areas.
Correct. It runs off of. We're still waiting to have the final system put in place, but to my knowledge, it runs off the existing CCTV cameras that are already in those rooms, and it'll just pick up from that. We've given the computer all of the footage from the past couple of seasons, so it's got a lot to work with. And yeah, I mean, apparently that's enough for it to learn. So let's see how it works. I'm not clued up on AI at all, so I'm very keen to see how it'll pan out.
I think there's very few of us that are clued up on AI. We're all still learning very much how it works, and it's always changing. So now, once those chicks are out and sort of growing and doing their thing, do you guys do any of the training side of things, or are these just ready for moving off to trainers?
So we do have our own falconers in-house that will train a select amount of birds. But for the most part, what we sort of specialize in is a beauty contest. So those falcons just need to get fit in the flying pen, and then after that they'll do some basic fitness flying. And we have a giant, it's essentially a greenhouse that's got a tremendously large air conditioner attached to it, because you can imagine a glass room in the Middle East in summer. It's it's a bit brutal. So the falcons will sit in the sun essentially all day like they would naturally in the wild, except this is, of course, in the sun at 18 degrees. And it allows their feathers to become a bit lighter, sort of bleaching their feathers to make them look more natural. And yeah, this is the standard for beauty contest, and it's what we do best.
Okay, so it's pretty much just showing off the species and the beauty of the species. And what goes into all of that? What are they looking for?
So for the most part, we're looking for very, very light falcons with the barring that goes on their back. So if you've ever looked at the back of any raptor, really, especially falcons, you'll see the coverts that cover their back has sort of lines around the edge of the covert. We are looking for falcons where that is not so prominent. It sort of all needs to blend in to the same color. We're looking for birds with a very light head, the light cere, light beak, and light talons. Sort of the lighter the falcon, the better it is.
And the reason for that? More natural, you said.
More natural, yes. I don't know the exact reason behind the beauty contest. This is going to be my first season around beauty contests. I know falcon racing quite well. I know hunting very well, but the beauty contest is still very, very new to me. I'm still also learning how to justify what a beautiful SAAKA falcon looks like, because to me, that's a very open-ended answer.
Yeah, very much so. You haven't had a chance to get involved too much in it yet, but do you know if the females kind of rank higher than the males? I mean, obviously we know birds of prey have got obviously a larger female and the males are smaller, so they would be more sought after for their beauty contest.
Yeah, so there is no beauty contest for males, so we strive for more females
shame
than
for
males.
males.
Yeah, not really, not really shame, because unfortunately for us, I'd say 80% of the males that are bred are more beautiful than the females. They come out looking exactly like what we want, but there's nothing we can do with them apart from in future,
you can't use them.
Hopefully having them give us pretty female babies, if we can put it that way.
Wow. So the reason is because it's a much bigger bird, the female. Is that what the reason is for not using males? Okay.
And also with the females in the competition, weight also matters quite a bit, but it's not necessarily the bigger the better. Because when we start having a female SAAKA push 1.2 to 1.3 kilograms, it starts to go on the unnatural side of things. We ideally want around 1.1, 1.15 kilograms.
Sure. That is a big bird.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I mean, the falcons that we get in South Africa are the biggest falcon we get in South Africa is nowhere near what we get here.
No.
I mean, for example, going a bit off topic, but some of the falcons that we've seen in the past, some of them will push over 2 kilograms. You're talking African hawk eagle size for a falcon.
Eagle. That is a big bird.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, I mean, you were talking about them having to exercise and build up muscle, because your muscle is heavier than fat. So those pectoral muscles from flying are going to give you that good weight. And
we're not necessarily building muscle for the weight. We're building muscle for the stance, the way the bird sits. You can see the broader shoulders. You can see the broader the shoulders, the bigger the cross is of the primaries on the back of the bird. So that cross is also very good. It's not just good for beauty. It's good for everything. It's good for racing falcons, hunting falcons, absolutely everything.
I'm interested to hear a little bit more about racing falcons, because that's a new thing for me.
Yeah, so the races here are, I mean, they're massive over the entire Middle East. There's big cash prizes. It's not really a spectator sport. You can find it on Yas TV here in the UAE when it is on, but it's not open to the public. People can't really go and watch it. It's sort of like a closed event for falconers only. And essentially, falcon racing is a 400-meter sprint for the most part. There are other types, but we'll just touch on the most popular. It'll be a 400-meter sprint, straight line. time trial. So, of course, one bird at a time. Otherwise, someone's going to try to eat someone else.
I was just going to say, that's not going to go so well when you've got a whole bunch of birds flying next to each other.
Yeah, exactly. And just like just like racehorses, racehorses also have a little bit of a screw loose sometimes, and they're a little bit crazy. And racing falcons are absolutely no different. They want to eat everything.
Yeah.
They're not starving. They're not starved. They're just, that's what has made a good racing falcon over the years, is them being a little bit cuckoo, if we can put it that way.
And you're also using all the females, the big birds. So
we're using males as well.
For races, males are used?
Yes, there's dozens of different categories. We have male SAAKA, female SAAKA. We have the different hybrids in male and female. We have the first-year birds and then the second-year birds, and going on from there. The race is really, there's a lot of categories. There are a tremendous amount of categories. Whereas opposed to the beauty contest, we only use first-year or juvenile falcons.
Okay. And the distance, I think you did mention the distance, but what's the time on that distance normally? What's the good time for that?
So here we see on average is around... something great is about 15 seconds.
15 seconds? Wow.
Yeah.
Over what distance again?
Over 400 meters.
My word, 15 seconds.
Mind you, this event, it's held outdoors.
Yeah.
So on these days where these are recorded, of course, the birds are moving downwind. But on the other days, it's the wind may be coming from the side or straight from the front. It's a little bit different. I could be wrong on the 15 seconds. I'm just trying to double check here, but that does ring a bell in my head.
Wow. Do they take the wind directions into account when they're doing the calculations, or is it just taken on the wing?
No, there's no winds taken into account. It's just done on the day and the speed.
Okay.
So yeah, here the time that I've got here, I was just checking back here, was 15.991 seconds to do 400 meters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was a German.
They're obviously
a hybrid.
That's crazy. Wow. So they're releasing them from one side, and then there's obviously a handler on the other side.
Yes, there'll be one of the trainers standing on the. So usually the owner will release the falcon,
right?
And the trainer will be standing on the other end, 400 meters away, swinging what we call a tilwa. It's usually dried hubara wings. They'll swing that around, and the falcon will go after it. In English, we just call it a lure.
Lure.
So, yeah.
So they're just chasing the lure and then get reinforced by the time they grab that lure and they're done with their...
Exactly.
Crazy. Nice short flight.
Yeah, it is. But it's at the end of it, you can see that bird put its everything into it.
Amazing.
They are exhausted after that flight and very happy, because one thing that's very different about the falcon training in the Middle East as opposed to other places in the world is weight management is done here, but it's not so focused on keeping a bird at a weight that worked for you in the past. The fatter the bird, the healthier and the faster. So also in that, we do have a tremendous amount of birds that fly away, but we have some of the best access to some of the best tracking equipment in the world. So it's never long before we get a bird back.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, the UAE's got some amazing telemetry and now GPS locating stuff. So there's no ways that most of the time that amount of money that's spent on those birds does not go to waste when it comes to tracking them.
Well, at the end of the day, on the day of the race, when the race is happening and when we do time trials at practice, there's no transmitter on that falcon. It's that bird is as natural as it can be to make sure that it's as fast as it can be.
Got you. Well, I mean, there's also relationships there with the trainer and all of that type of stuff, and build
yes,
up
definitely
reinforcement value on those lures and all of that type of stuff. So, of course, that plays a huge part in it. I mean, if you haven't been training your falcon enough, you're not going to be able to race it as easily and as well as you would if you spend time doing it.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I must say that it has been very interesting chatting to you about all of this and getting to know a little bit more about some of the stuff that I've never heard of, like racing falcons. Yeah. But I'm sure we could talk forever. But we do have a time limit, so we'll start ending it off there. Thank you very much, Ryan, for joining us, and I'm sure the listeners will be intrigued by everything that they heard about, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you one day this side for a conference with SAAKA.
yeah, hopefully in future. Let's see.
Yeah, indeed. Well, if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to contact us, and we will get those questions to Ryan. If you've got any questions about what he does and the falconry and all of that type of stuff out there in the UAE and the breeding center, so please send us an email. It's animal.talk201@gmail.com, or you can get a hold of us on our social media. We're on all the platforms: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we're also on YouTube. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and comment on our YouTube. It really does help the algorithm push our podcast out to a lot more people. And if you've got any comments and you put them on there, we'll be happy to transfer them over to Ryan if that's about any of the stuff that we've chatted about on this episode. If you do want to know anything more about SAAKA, the South African Animal Keepers Association, you can click on one of the links below in the description, go onto the social media, have a look, go onto the website. And remember, if you want to be a member, it's very easy. Click on that website, go to membership, and go through all of those buttons, and you'll be able to become a member of SAAKA. Well, we'd also like to thank eRadio for allowing us to be on the radio station on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And pretty much like I always say, animals are our passion. Thanks very much, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Alrighty, cool. That was good. We did it like a 30 minutes, which is great. No bloopers. What am I going to do?
Yeah, hey.